Hello children, welcome to the new class. We are doing as you are aware modern physics, and in this class we are going to discuss atoms. Okay. Now mankind has been very much fascinated with the concept of atoms, as you are very well aware that our ancient textbooks contain the mention of Paramanu, which basically means atom. So Indian scientists were not new to the concept of atoms. Now, in fact, the curiosity arises when we take, suppose I take this piece of chalk and go and break it into smaller parts. The question is, what is the smallest part that I can obtain by breaking this piece of chalk? Well, to some extent the answer is the smallest part will be atom. Now, as we will be discussing, atoms can be broken down into further smaller subatomic particles like electrons, protons and neutrons, and then we have a whole family of particles. Briefly, we will be discussing that part 2 later on. Now, the first significant theory, the modern theory in science, was proposed by Thomson after he conducted his experiment, which led to the discovery of electron, which we have done. It is called discharge tube experiment. And Thomson's model of atom. So, what is an atom? According to the modern definition, atom is the smallest particle of matter which cannot exist in free state. Right, and molecule is the smallest particle which can exist in free state. So, I hope you understand this, you know also. Now, we are discussing the theories of atom and atomic structure. In fact, the first theory of atom was proposed by Thomson. We call it Thomson's model. So, we begin with structure of atom. The first theory was proposed by Thomson, Sir J. J. Thomson, and we call it Thomson's model. Thomson's model. After discovery of electron, Thomson proposed his model, which said that atom is like a sphere, like a watermelon, and electrons here, atom is like a sphere. The positive ions are distributed at random, and in this random distribution of positive ions, electrons are embedded. Electrons are embedded like plum in pudding or seeds in watermelon. Right? Thomson's model was the first modern model which predicted the atom to be like a sphere. You can imagine a watermelon in which positive charge were distributed randomly and electrons were embedded at random. This is also called plum and pudding model, in which electrons are distributed inside the atom, sphere of the atom, just like plum in pudding. Okay. So, let us write about this model. Distributed randomly. Positive charge distributed randomly. Now comes electrons. Electrons are embedded like seeds in a watermelon or plum in pudding. So, here we have electrons. You see, this was a very good model in those days, because electrons were just discovered. Protons also came into existence, they were discovered, and then it was known that the matter is neutral, so atom has to be neutral as well. So, there has to be a positively charged particle along with what? Negatively charged particle. This model was in fact able to explain most of the Ajot phenomena in those times, but then this model fails to explain miserably what Rutherford found. In fact, this model had many lackings in it, because it did not specify whether electrons are moving, because it said the electrons are stationary. It did not speak about the orbits followed by electrons, and the worst part was that it said that the positive charge are distributed at random, which you know is very wrong. Means in this model there was no concept of orbits, there was also no concept of nucleus, right. Now, Ernst Rutherford was studying what will happen when noble metals like gold and platinum are bombarded by using a stream of alpha rays. Okay, this is a very landmark experiment, and we will be discussing this Rutherford's alpha particle experiment. So children will be discussing what is Rutherford's alpha particle scattering experiment. Rutherford's alpha particle scattering experiment. This is historical experiment, and we will be discussing this. What is this scattering experiment? Ernst Rutherford, a British physicist, he was studying with, in fact, the effects of alpha particles. And what alpha particles? Alpha particles actually fast moving helium nuclei. Like, you know, what is helium, children? Helium is 2He4. Now it has 2 electrons. If I remove these 2 electrons, they become 2He4, and what will be charge on it? 2 plus. So this becomes alpha particle. So every time I will say alpha ray or alpha particle, you will know that is a helium nucleus only. Nucleus meaning the electrons have been knocked out like this. This is the nucleus, 2 protons and 2 neutrons, but there are no electrons. There is no electron in it, right? Alpha particles are doubly ionized helium nuclei. If from helium nucleus you remove 2 electrons, it becomes an alpha particles. Alpha particles, you have to remember, alpha particle carries charge of plus 2 units. Clear? Now Rutherford directed his 2 students. One was Geiger, and the other is also other is called Marsden. So it is also called Geiger-Marsden experiment. In fact, these 2 people were crucial in conducting this experiment along with Niels Bohr. Rutherford. What Rutherford did was, because radioactivity was a hot topic in those days, and so was nuclear physics. So everyone is trying to see, and in fact there was a concept that by, as you have studied in radioactivity already, that by bombarding elements using alpha, beta and gamma rays, we can change the element from one form into another form. Means we can change one element into another element, right? Nuclear transmutation. So what he did was, he took a source of alpha rays. For example, polonium is a good source of alpha rays. This is a radioactive material. This is a lead case. The lead case will prevent the emission of rays on the sides, and this is a radioactive material, source of alpha rays. Source of alpha rays. In front of the source of alpha rays, he placed a gold foil. Why gold foil? Because you know gold is a noble metal, and generally it will not react, and its nucleus therefore should also not be undergoing transmutation when it is bombarded by using alpha rays. Now what he found was, when he bombarded with gold foil, this is a very thin gold foil, and then what he did was, he placed a travelling microscope on a circular scale so that he could view what is happening from all sides. So this is in fact the plane in which he could move his eyepiece. Here we have an eyepiece, and using eyepiece he is trying to see what happened. Now he found that when he bombarded gold foil using alpha rays, most of the rays went straight. Most of the rays went straight like this. Like this. Most of the rays went straight. They went right to the gold foil. However, some of them were bent. See here. For example, this ray went here and bent like this. Yet another ray went bent by a larger angle. And 1 in 10,000 rays, it reverted backwards, it came back by 180 degree, meaning it went straight here and came back by 180 degree, came back in the same direction. The rest of the rays went straight, this one went straight, this one went straight. Again here something happened, that the rays are bending, and the ones which are bending, they are bending by very large angles. Imagine an analogy, a similarity. I take a number of bullets and fire into this board, for example, and I find that most of the bullets are going straight. That means they are able to penetrate and they are going right through. And imagine each bullet is positively charged, and then I find that very few of the bullets, they are bending backwards. So one bullet goes here and comes back, goes here, comes back, and one in 100,000 rays, it goes and comes back straight. Means goes here and recoils in the same direction, comes back. So this will arouse a lot of curiosity. Why most of the bullets are going right through and only some of them are getting scattered. And the ones which are being scattered, they are being scattered by very large angles. Two important discussions here. First one is, why most of the rays are going straight? If most of the rays are going straight, that means the gold foil is not able to offer resistance to the movement of alpha particles. And if some of them are bending by very large angles, that means the ones which are bending by very large angle, they are experiencing very large force. And since very few of them are bending, that means the force is concentrated over a very small area. And remember, the alpha particles are positively charged. So if they are being, reverted back, if they are coming back, they are scattering. That means because they are positively charged, they must be encountering another positive charge. And the fact that very few of them are being scattered implies that the positive charge is confined over a very small distance. Clear? So first we will be saying what were the findings of this experiment. Okay? We will be writing what were the findings of this experiment, and then we will conclude as to what was Rutherford's model. So, remember, the scattered rays are being viewed from all sides, all angles, because you got a travelling microscope, eyepiece which is fitted on a circular scale. Alright, it is not fixed on one point, it can travel in a vertical circle. Okay? So, here we have when gold foil is bombarded using alpha rays, most of the alpha rays pass undeviated. However, some of them are scattered by very large angles. Scattered rays are viewed using a microscope in a vertical circle, okay, or in a circular plane, in a circular plane. Clear? So, based on this, the outcome of the experiment, Rutherford constructed this model of the atom. He said atom is like a sphere. See, atom is like a sphere was already known since the days of Sir J.J. Thomson, right? Atom is like a sphere. And then he said the positive charge and mass, they are concentrated at the center. Imagine a model like this. The positive charge is concentrated at the center, and the center is extremely small compared to the size of the atom. You can imagine a sphere a very large sphere having a radius of nearly 10 to the power 5 meters, suppose, and then in 1 meter at the center of the sphere we have entire mass of the sphere and positive charge concentrated. And now let us imagine alpha rays are going in this region, and what will happen? In fact, this region is empty. All these alpha rays, this alpha ray similarly can also go straight, because there is no opposition here. This is mostly empty space, and then these alpha rays will also go straight. Remember, this positive charge is very large and is concentrated where? At the center. So imagine another alpha particle which is positively charged and is going like this, closer to the nucleus. So what will happen? It will be scattered. Why will it be scattered? Because it will be experiencing a large repulsion. Similarly, if a particle is more square toward the center, then will be greater repulsion will come back like this. Yet another particle which is approaching the nucleus closer will come back like this. And another alpha particle which is directly heading towards the diameter like this, it will experience maximum repulsion and it will be scattered by 180 degree angle. Based on the experiment, Rutherford constructed a model like this. Now the question arises, where are the electrons located now? Because in Thomson's model they were embedded like plum in pudding. So he said that electrons, they are not fixed, they are actually revolving in circular orbits. Like one electron is here, so it will revolve like this. There is an electron here, it will be revolving here. This electron will be revolving here. So this is the model of the atom that he constructed. That atom is like a sphere. All the positive charge and mass is concentrated at the center. And this point is called nucleus. So remember, before Rutherford's model, in fact, this experiment, the concept of nucleus was not known. And then nucleus is surrounded by huge empty space. See, this huge empty space. This is nearly 1 lakh times, 100,000 times bigger than the size of the nucleus. And then this empty space actually will account for the volume of the atom. If I ask what is size of the atom, then we will be seeing the distance between nucleus and the last orbit out here. The extent of the atom the influence of the atom extends up to here. So this will be the radius of the atom, which will be very large compared to the nucleus. So electrons are revolving around the nucleus in these circular orbits. Okay. So this is atom. Atom is spherical in shape, and it has a centrally located point called nucleus, and nucleus contains all the positive charge and mass. It is surrounded by huge empty spaces which account for the volume of the atom. And electrons revolve around the nucleus in these empty spaces in circular paths that we call orbits. So the two most important contributions of Rutherford's model are the concept of nucleus and the concept of orbits. Now you may wonder, what will happen when an alpha particle collides with these electrons? Of course there can be a collision, but alpha particles are more than 7300 times heavier than the mass of electron. So it is like a collision between what? A chicken and a truck. So what will happen? The chicken will be carried by the truck. Same thing, if an alpha particle collides with an electron, nothing will happen. The alpha particle will carry the electron along with it. Okay. So this is Rutherford's model. We will be writing now the main points about Rutherford's model. Okay. Let's write. Rutherford's model. We will be writing now what is Rutherford's model. First is, atom is spherical in. So here are the main points. Atom is spherical in shape. Atom is centrally located point called nucleus. Then you have nucleus contains all the positive charge and mass, and we know today that the particles which are occupying the nucleus, they are called nucleons. Then atom is surrounded by huge empty space, and this empty space actually explains what? The volume. Atom is surrounded by huge empty space in which electrons revolve around the nucleus in circular orbit, circular paths called orbits. Remember, Rutherford's model is very significant because it gave the concept of orbits and nucleus. Now, size of the atom is 10 to the minus 5 times the size of the atom. Size of the nucleus. Size of the nucleus is 10 to the minus 5 times the size of the atom. So, these are the main features of Rutherford's model. Now, there are certain key terms that we use like angle of scattering. Let us see what is angle of scattering. There is a nucleus. There are certain key terms that you should be knowing. And this is a line which is directly going towards the center, passing through the center. You can imagine nucleus to be like what? A sphere, and a line which is going through the center of the sphere, which is the nucleus itself. Now, imagine a particle is approaching here, and then from here it gets scattered. Then this angle theta which you are seeing is called angle of scattering. Theta is called angle of scattering, angle by which it is getting scattered. Now, suppose another particle goes here and gets scattered like this. This is how it was originally going, and this is how it has gone. So, this is angle of scattering. Clear? Now, this distance is called Hamming parameter, also called impact parameter. Okay? The shortest distance between alpha particle approaching the nucleus and line drawn through the nucleus is called impact parameter, this distance. Okay? Now, there is another term that we use. So, angle of scattering, and this is impact parameter, two terms. There is another term that we use, it is called distance of closest approach. Let us understand this. So, two terms to understood here. First one is angle of scattering, denoted by theta, and then we have impact parameter. Impact parameter, and its symbol is B. So, two terms. Clear? What is impact parameter, children? We will be writing the definition. The shortest distance parameter. Remember, these two lines will have to be parallel. This line and this line are parallel to each other. And remember here, impact parameter, we denote it by B. Impact parameter, B is directly proportional to cot theta by 2. Remember this, impact parameter is directly proportional to cot theta by 2, and for the same nucleus, if you have two impact parameters, like here we have, suppose this is B1 and this is B2, then B1 by B2 will be cot theta 1 by 2 divided by cot theta 2 by 2. So, for numericals, if there is any comparison based problem, you can easily do it. Okay. Then you have another term that will be coming across, that is called distance of closest approach. Distance of closest approach. Closest approach. We denote it by R0. Distance of closest approach. Now, suppose the nucleus is here and the alpha particle is fired from here. the alpha particle is going toward the nucleus. Okay? An alpha particle carries what charge? Positive charge. And its nucleus is also carrying what charge? Positive charge. So the alpha particle with positive charge is going toward the nucleus, and the alpha particle is going to experience what? Repulsion. So as it moves towards, it is going to do work against repulsion, and its kinetic energy will continue to get spent. We can also say, as the alpha particle is approaching the nucleus, its kinetic energy will change into potential energy. So it goes here. At this point, it has spent all the energy. So the repulsion will push it now backwards. So it will go backwards. Right? If it is going directly toward the nucleus, it will go back by 180 degree, or it will recoil at a certain angle. Right? Either way, when an alpha particle is approaching the nucleus, suppose the nucleus is here, an alpha particle went and then recoiled like this. Clear? So the minimum distance here between the nucleus and the alpha particle, this distance is called distance of closest approach. Clear? As alpha particle, once again, as alpha particle go toward the nucleus, its kinetic energy keeps changing into potential energy. At the point where the velocity becomes 0, it is what? Deflected. So the shortest distance between the alpha particle and the nucleus at that point of time is called distance of closest approach. So we will be defining the minimum distance between the alpha particle and nucleus is called distance of closest approach. Now you get numericals on this, so we will be deriving what will be possibly the value of the distance of closest approach, and this derivation with terms in terms of the velocity of alpha particle or kinetic energy of alpha particle, and also the atomic number of the nucleus. Okay, let's try to understand. Okay, now we will be deriving formula for distance of closest approach. Distance of closest approach, that is R0. So children, this is the nucleus, magnified view. This is the atom, suppose. This is how the alpha particle is coming, plus 2e, going up to here and coming back. So this distance is what we are calling distance of closest approach. See how closer this alpha particle go to the nucleus will depend upon what is the velocity of alpha particle, means how much kinetic energy it is having, and what is the positive charge. The positive charge will be more, means it will be repelling the greater force, and more will be the value of R0. Now for the same nucleus, more the velocity, suppose the velocity of alpha particle is v, then closer it will be able to go, and lesser will be the value of v0. So you can keep both in mind. We will make certain assumptions, like we will say, let velocity of alpha particle is v and the atomic number is z. Now say children, if atomic number is z, means how many protons are there? Z protons are there. So what will be the charge on the nucleus? Charge nucleus will plus Z E. Clear? So I will make certain assumptions, children. I will say, let velocity of alpha particle is equal to V, and atomic number of nucleus is equal to Z. So therefore, and mass of alpha particle is m, which we know is, which is approximately 4 atomic mass units. So kinetic energy of alpha particle will be how much, children? K will be equal to half mv square. This is number 1. And total charge on the nucleus, children, will be how much? Plus Z into E. We know this. So as the alpha particle approaches the nucleus, its kinetic energy changes into potential energy. Now the alpha particle is here, plus 2e. If alpha particle is here, then at this point of time, all its kinetic energy has changed into what? Potential energy. So, at distance of closest approach, you already know what will be the potential energy? 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q1 q2 by r. You have done in electrostatics. Did the potential energy of system of two charges. Now it will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0. q1 is charge of alpha particle 2e, q2 is charge of nucleus which is Ze, and r is equal to r0. So u is equal to how much here? 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 2 Ze square divided by r0. So children, we got expression for kinetic energy and we got expression for potential energy. The instant when all the kinetic energy has changed into potential energy, its velocity will become 0 and the alpha particle will be recoiling backwards, right? So at the instant of recoil, kinetic energy will be equal to potential energy. This is very important to know. At the instant of recoil, all kinetic energy has been spent and converted into potential energy. Clear? So if I equate these two, that means this shows, let it here, that half mv square is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught 2 Ze square by r0. So how much will be r0? If you solve r0 will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 2 Ze square, this will be divided by half mv square, right? So you can also write distance of closest approach r0 is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught 4 Ze square by mv square. Now this formula is expressed in so many different ways. Many times half mv square is just written as Ke, kinetic energy. So you can also write r0 is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 2 Ze square upon kinetic energy. So you can remember any of these three formulas. All that you need to do is you need to insert the value of Z, calculate how much is the kinetic energy and replace all these values here. You will be getting how much is the distance of closest approach. Clear? In a given problem, suppose they tell you that alpha particle moving the velocity of 10 to 10 power 6 meter per second is fired towards the nucleus. Z is equal to, suppose, 59. Calculate distance of closest approach. So I'll just put everything out here, right? Mass of alpha particles will be given to you. Suppose this is 7.2 into 10 power minus 27 kilogram. I can insert all these values here and I can calculate how much. I can use this equation very well. R0 you can directly use. R0 will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 is how much? 9 into 10 to the power 9. 2. Z is 59. Charge of electron is 1.6 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb square. And then mass, take this 4 up in fact. So 4, mass alpha particle is suppose 7.2 10 to the minus 27 and velocity is 2 into 10 to the power 6. So children, if we condense all these calculations, we will get what will be the value of R0 in terms of meter. Clear? Easily if you can calculate. So if they give you any numericals, you should be able to calculate it very easily. Clear? So we understood what will be the value of distance of closest approach for a given nucleus and for a given velocity of alpha particle. Clear? Now once you have understood this derivation, then we see graphically the variation in number of scattered particles with respect to the angle of scattering. Okay, let's say this variation of Number of children will be discussing variation of number of scattered particles with respect to angle of scattering. In fact, if number of scattered particles is written as delta n, and number of incident alpha rays or alpha particles is equal to n, then delta n by n is called fraction of scattering, is known as fraction of scattering. Children, if you plot a graph between number of scattered particles and angle of scattering, theta, then the graph comes something like this. Decreasing graph. You see, as the angle of scattering increases, then the number of particles scattered is also decreasing. Only very few particles will be scattered at 180 degree. Clear? And then, actually this is delta n and this is theta. This is delta n and this is theta. This is delta n and this is theta. So, as the angle of scattering is increasing, you can see the number of particles scattered at this particular angle is also decreasing. And delta n by n, it can be shown is directly equal to cosec theta by 2 to the power 4. This is an important relation which you have to know. That fraction of scattered particles is equal to cosec theta by 2 to the power 4, where theta is angle of scattering. Clear? So, we saw various aspects of Rutherford's model, two important conclusions of Rutherford's model which are historical and which were in fact first time discoveries, were the discoveries of nucleus and the existence of orbits. Clear? But sadly enough, this beautiful model failed to explain stability of orbits. So, we have failures of Rutherford's model. Rutherford's model. You see, did the nucleus, and suppose electron is here. Now, electron is accelerated because its velocity is changing all that. Speed is not changing in a particular orbit, but its velocity is changing all the time. We are changing direction. And whenever any velocity will change, it will have acceleration. And you have done in electromagnetic waves. What are electromagnetic waves? Electromagnetic waves are produced when a charged particle is accelerated, right? So, when this electron is accelerated, then it will start producing electromagnetic waves, hence it will start radiating energy. Which energy? This will be electromagnetic energy, it will be emitted continuously because electromagnetic waves cause emission of radiation energy what? Continuously. So, as this particle will be continuously emitting energy, then what will you find? The radius of its path will go on decreasing. The nucleus is here, the radius of its path goes on decreasing, and as the radius of its path goes on decreasing, what happens, children? Finally it collides with the nucleus like this. And when electron will collide with the nucleus, then you can understand the orbit will not exist. So, atom will also not exist. A charged particle in motion, according to electromagnetic theory of radiation, a charged particle in motion emits energy continuously. As a consequence, the radius of path of electron will be continuously decreasing and will collide with the nucleus. Therefore, Rutherford's model predicts unstable orbits. Okay? So, we will be writing this first point. A charged nucleus, thus it fails to explain stability of orbits. Stability of orbits. So this is the first point that he failed to explain, because the orbits will be shortening, gradually electron will run into the nucleus and the orbit will not be stable. Now what is the second failure? The second failure is, as the energy will be emitted by electron continuously, then the spectrum should also be continuous. But we find what? Line spectrum, which is on the contrary. So number 2, it predicts continuous spectrum which is wrong, because we know that the spectrum is not continuous. It is atomic spectra is what? Line spectrum, like this, containing only few lines. So on both the ground it has what? Failed. And then the other failures, like predict circular orbits, but we know that these orbits not circular, they are elliptical. So this defect actually remained even in Bohr's model. Later on he rectified himself. Okay. So these are the failures of Rutherford's model. So children, go through this in detail. Okay. In the next video I will be discussing Bohr's model. Thank you.